Radio.
What is reality? Reality is what we believe to be true about the nature of our surroundings. But how do we come to decide that true nature? Do we conceive it completely on our own? Or do other devices gently sway our thoughts onto a pre-decided path? This is the hard question we must all ask ourselves as free humans on this planet. Who sculpts your reality?
Reality. Hey guys, it's another wonderful Wednesday night here at the super secret undisclosed location. It's time for your reality brief. We got a pretty good show lined up for you tonight. We got a special guest. You've heard us talk about the Secret Space Program. We've even talked about her on the show. It's Ileana, and she was in the ICC, among other things, in the SSP for about 60 years was her total time. So I'll go ahead and bring her in for you guys. And just a second. Look at me. I can do all the fancy stuff.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us on the show tonight.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm still trying to get you. Hey, look at that. Hey, there you are. All right. Hey, that was intense, man. That was like clicking and moving a mouse around, and I was just lost. All right, so why don't you tell us how it all started? I mean, there's all types of different scenarios that people explain. What's yours?
Well, it started from the age of 2 and went up to the age of 10, the ET abductions. I was abducted by 2 various reptilian species, one Sharab invictus, which was a yellowish reptilian, about 12 feet tall. The other one was Black Drowso, was 14 feet tall, and that one was involved with the Armada, reptilian Drowso Armada. So they had a whole armada beside our Earth space stationed. So that was interesting because for me, I remember them vividly. Like it when I was small, I used to be afraid of being alone in the dark. That to me, like I was afraid of being left alone in my bedroom. And this was in the Ukraine. I was born in the Ukraine, so the abduction started there. And I was born in 1985, so when I was 2, that would be about 85, 86, 88, something like that. 1988, if my math is correct. So around that time, 88, 89, 1988, 89, that's when the abduction started. And they would used to take me, these 2 reptilians, and they would put me in underground bases in Europe, near the Rostov area. That's not in Ukraine, but it's nearby. And they would do genetic experiments on me.
Now was this a reptilian-only base, or were there humans involved in this too?
There was humans involved, so it was a military-type base in Europe, near the Rostov area. They had military presence there until 2010, actually. The underground base is still active. The surface facilities are no longer active, but the underground base is still active to this day. So what happened to me is they would genetically tinker around with my DNA. They ruined my autoimmune system and nervous system, and they injected me with 36,000 nanites, which is nanomaterial technology. Okay. And it basically attacks your nervous system and your blood system.
Right. So the nanites were definitely to your detriment then, and it wasn't like a helpful thing.
No, it was not a helpful thing. It was designed to ruin my health so I would die, but I didn't die. I survived, and I went on to live, but I have all kinds of medical conditions which are hard to explain because of these nanites that were in my body. And it was 36,000 of them, and I just got rid of them in 2014. I had an operation done to remove my uterus because that's where the nanites were. And it was causing me to basically bleed out, hemorrhage out. So I had the uterus removed, and the nanites were removed along with the uterus.
So why do you think they would go about trying to kill you in this way instead of just outright killing you?
It had to be subtle, because if they just killed me, it would be too noticeable.
Or you'd just be missing out of nowhere.
Yeah, if it was subtle. It was done on an energetic level as well with the nanite technology, because it's very smart technology. It's nanomaterial technology that enters your body, goes into your bloodstream, into your nervous system, into your autoimmune system, into your brain, and basically kills you slowly. It's a slow process. So, and it's, you can't, with our today's technology, you can't notice the nanites in the bloodstream or in the body. Our technology, like what we have today, you can't screen for these nanites because they're very small. They're less than microscopic. You can't see them with a microscope in the body. So they're untraceable, basically.
So are you sure that when you had that procedure, they were all removed? I mean, with being so small, they didn't travel through your body at all?
No, they were in my uterus, basically. And that's what was causing the bleed out. And after the uterus and the cervix were removed, I started feeling much better. The story doesn't end there. I also had Neuralink implants and ocular implants in my brain from the SSP programs. That was done later on to me, right. So I had other health issues because of that. So there's multiple things involved here.
So now these reptilians, were they involved with the Draco Empire or Dark Fleet in any way? Do you know? Or was it a separate sect of reptilians?
I think it was a separate sect of reptilians. Because the ones that are involved with the ICC, the Dark Fleet, they're hybrid reptilians. They're human hybrid reptilians. So they could shapeshift, but they look humanoid. These guys were not humanoid at all. So
straight reptile.
They were straight reptilians. There was also another guy involved. He was tall, had grayish, kind of black-red hair. His skin was very gray, and he was about 16 feet tall. He was a harvester race type of being. They like to take genetic DNA from young children and experiment with it and collect the DNA, collect blood samples. So what I remember when I was in these underground bases as a child, I remember kids being chained to the walls and screaming. So in this harvester race guy, he would just watch the children scream. So he was kind of an observer of all of this going on. He would lead the children into the base and the experiments would start. So I remember that as well.
When you said you were in Russia, do you recall if, like you were working specifically, like did it look like it's, at face value that you were being held by government officials, but there were people like working under the false flag of the state, or?
Well, it was the Soviet Union at that time, so I mostly remember the reptilians and the harvester humanoid-looking guy. I really didn't see anybody else in the base, but I know it was a human-run base because it had all that human technology. It had computers. It had all of that stuff. There was also a type of portal room in the underground base where they used to actually tinker around with portal technology and time travel, time streaming. And that actually exploded. I was in front of it and it exploded. And somehow they were able to reverse it. So I saw all the glass that broke in the room. It reversed itself, and they put it back together as if the accident never happened.
Like a time manipulation thing, almost. Or?
Yes. It was if anybody ever watched Stargate SG-1 or Stargate Atlantis,
we're big fans.
Yeah, it's a favorite topic on this show.
It was like that. except a lot more advanced, and it exploded. They did something wrong. The reptilians, they opened time gateway portal through the technology, but it exploded. And they were, I guess, able to go back in time and reverse it. And I saw all of that happening. It happened right in front of me because I was standing in that room.
You think that might have anything to do with the anti-telephone technology that Tony Rodriguez talks about?
Maybe it does. What I know is they have the capabilities to reverse time, the reptilians, and to fix any mistakes that happen, because they were able to reverse the accident and put everything back together in slow motion. I saw it being fixed in slow motion, the gateway being rebuilt and the glass explosion being fixed like it never happened really. I saw it right in front of my eyes. So that's a very recurrent memory that I have. Mm-hmm. It's very vivid and clear of that memory recall.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So now, about how long was it after your ET abduction? You said you were 16. Now, did that continue? It was only 2 to 5, or did it continue up until you were 16 and taken into the secret space programs?
It was 2 to 10 that the reptilians abducted me, and the harvester race guy, the one that was gray. And then what happened in the interim, when I was 12 to 15, the Monarch Solutions programs got a hold of me. And they were training me with psychic. They were trying to train me to enhance my psychic abilities and to make my brain into a supercomputer, to try to reconfigure both hemispheres of my brain as one working hemisphere instead of two hemispheres. You know how you have your left and right hemisphere, mm-hmm. and they do two separate things? They were trying to get it so both hemispheres would act as a supercomputer. So I would have augmented psychic abilities more than I already had. I remember being drowned in a sort of hot tub somewhere out in the woods in a cabin near the Sierra Madre Mountains. That's close to New Mexico and Texas, slightly below those areas. Mm-hmm. So I remember that vividly. It was some kind of a forest, and they were doing the training on my brain to have my abilities be even more augmented. They had me opening time travel portals. I remember also 2 bases with mini CERN technology. Antimatter, they were doing that kind of testing. So I remember that from 12 to 15. They were doing that stuff.
And I'm sorry if you said this, but what geographic location was it still in Europe at this time?
No, this is America.
Okay.
This is when I moved to Canada. I had moved to Canada. So this was in the U.S. because I said Sierra Madre Mountains.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's near New Mexico and somewhat lower than Texas. Lower than the Texas border.
So is that when you initially got involved with remote viewing?
Yeah. They had me practicing seeing images in my brain, remote viewing stuff for them. That was part of the brain training with augmenting my hemispheres of the brain to make sure I could see things very clearly. And that was the training for the 60 and back quantum leap time travel with the SSP and the ICC. This was a precursor training sort of on Earth.
So as opposed to, and you weren't abducted at this point, correct?
I still consider all of this abductions.
Well, I mean, you went home, right?
Yeah, I went home.
Okay,
yes,
so
definitely.
You weren't like brought into the program or the age regression program yet.
Not at that point, no. But it's still abduction.
Right. No. Yeah. Now, what type of things did they have you remote viewing? Did anything stick out as like incredible or strange?
They actually had me remote viewing various Stargate portals on the planet. They were very interested in how these Stargate portals work. So they had me looking for these locations, and these are natural made portals that open naturally. It's consistent with time sync, so it's contingent on certain time frames when these portals open. So they had me monitoring these portals and telling them where the locations are of the portals. That's what they had me remote viewing.
Interesting. Okay, so you said that continued until you were 16. Now, did you have
15.
what? 15.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, Dan.
it's okay.
I just wanted to ask, do you recall ever seeing any like technology that was used to increase one's ability to remote view? A few shows ago, we stumbled across a patent for a device that was built by this guy named John Quincy St. Clair, and it was this box that you could sit in, and it was supposed to use the geometry of space to enhance one's ability to remote view. And it looked like really simple tech. It looked like it was mostly like wood and mirrors and simple lights. It didn't seem like it was super high tech.
Yeah, it was claiming something with the geometry would allow you to focus better or something.
And I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that kind of technology. What I do remember is them giving me serum drugs to enhance my remote viewing abilities.
What? No, was that as a shot or pills?
Shots.
Shots.
It was shots. Yeah. Yeah. I was given a lot of different shots and drugs to enhance my abilities, and not just to remote view, to open Stargateway portals, to actually open those portals that I remote viewed.
So you can
and walk through them.
Astrally.
Not astrally, no. Physically walk into the portals, open them, and walk through them.
Now, so you would open the portal where you were at, where you were remote viewing from? Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like find the portal, open it up, walk through it, and come out on the other side. And they would record the telemetry as this was happening.
Now, where would you go?
That I don't really remember. What I remember is walking through the tunnel portal and ending up somewhere on the other side on the planet, on Earth.
Oh, okay. So you went somewhere else on Earth.
Yeah, it was on Earth. And it was somewhere still out near the Madre Mountains, Sierra Madre Mountains. I remember forests. I remember warm terrain. And two bases. I remember two different bases. One was a secret weapons facility. The other was a sonar type of a base. So I was mainly kept in those two bases, and also out near that cabin in the woods.
So what did it look like to walk through these portals?
It looked like water, like kind of like blue energy, and it felt like it was like wavy, shimmering water.
So
tunnel.
Kind of very much like the Stargate that everybody knows and loves from TV.
Sort of, yeah, but a little bit more complex. Like I could feel the energy, like I could feel the electricity around it. So it was very shimmery, and it only like took a few minutes to walk through it.
So you had to continuously walk, or it was like you stepped in and then it just took a few minutes?
I had to walk. I had to actually walk through the tunnel. Through the Stargate portal tunnel. Like I had to walk in it, and then in about 5 minutes I'd come out on the other side. So it wasn't instant like in Stargate. Mm-hmm. It took longer.
Now, did they give you any type of warnings before you walked through about how to walk through or what to do?
They did give me a warning to because it was a natural portal, energy portal that I opened up. They told me concentrate on the energy of the portal to sustain it, so you don't lose the portal, because then you'll disappear in the portal and you'll be stuck in nowhere. You won't be able to come back. So that was the warning.
Yeah, that definitely wouldn't be fun.
No.
Yeah.
I don't imagine there's a whole lot of air in subspace.
No, I wouldn't be wanting to be stuck somewhere in dark matter or in between dimensions or worlds, because you can end up anywhere. This was a natural made portal, like energetic natural portal made of energy. It wasn't like a Stargateway portal that's opened with technology. So I had to maintain the sequence of the portal being open, because it's just energy.
Was it like straining, like a mental effort, like, like when you're intenting on something?
Yeah, it's like you had to keep the visual and the mental intent going to keep the portal going. So there's visualization involved, and you have to keep the energy flowing and going while you're walking through the portal itself, because you're the one that opens it up, and you're the one that has to maintain the portal for it to work.
So do you feel like this is something that they couldn't do themselves? This is why they were experimenting on you, or could they readily do this themselves?
You have to have a lot of psychic ability and even be an empath and intuitive to do it, to do that type of stuff. So they were looking for specific children or teenagers who could do that, and taking them into the Monarch Solutions programs and having them do that, and actually recording how you do it. They had video telemetry and audio recording us how we did it, to try to figure out how it works so they can copy it and reproduce it technologically.
Okay, so now you went into Monarch, you were doing the remote viewing, and then at 15, what happens next?
I was returned home, and then I had a 1 year of reprieve. And then I was taken into the ICC SSP. So I was taken off world.
How did that come to be? Do you remember when they got you? The abduction experience? What happened after that? Can you?
I remember ending up on the moon, in Lunar Operations Command. I remember that, and it wasn't a contract, and it wasn't anything official. It was an abduction scenario for 60 years of being an asset. That's what it was.
Do you remember how you got to the moon? Was it a portal? Yeah. Was it a ship?
I believe it was a portal that teleported me there while I was sleeping.
So you just kind of woke up and was there?
Yeah, I was in a hallway, and what I remember is I ended up in a hallway, in a grayish-white hallway, and I was looking out some sort of a window, and I could see the moon. I could see the surface features of the moon. The Lunar Operations Command, to me, it looks different than what other SSP whistleblowers have stated it is. It didn't look like a swastika-shaped building that was built on an old Nazi base. To me, it looked totally different. What it was is a bunch of circular buildings attached together, kind of like dome shapes, and they were kind of grayish-white buildings, and there was a lot of different windows, so you could see the moon out from the windows. There was about, I believe, 10 stories to these circular buildings, office spaces, meeting rooms. They also had a cordoned off area where there was gardens for recreational purposes, where people could go and sit and just enjoy being out. It felt like nature, because there was a lot of plants and even like an atmosphere. It felt like you were outside. You knew you were in a building, but it felt like you were outside. There was these bio walls with plants and stuff, and birds and water, like little fountains with water streaming down.
I've got geographical locations of SSP and ICC bases on Moon and Mars for the audience there to check out. So this is the circular domes you were talking about, just so they could see that there. You would say this is a good approximation. This is from the inside secret space programs, bases, and living arrangements.
Yeah.
Did they have artificial gravity in those domes, or did he get to enjoy the lowered lunar gravity and, go bouncing around?
No bouncing around, normal walking, so I think they do have artificial gravity. And when you're outside, actually, you have to wear an environmental suit with a breathing apparatus.
Definitely, I wouldn't want to go outside on the moon without a spacesuit. I was thinking, though, if you're in one of the domes, it'd be kind of cool if they had the lesser gravity. I always thought, playing basketball in lunar gravity would be a lot of fun.
No, they didn't have the lesser gravity. It was just normal gravity.
Now, the inside, it didn't look like an old military base on the inside. It looked...
No, it looked very sleek and modern, like what they build right now with glass buildings.
Mm-hmm.
These modern architectural, structural things. It looked like that. So it didn't look like an old base to me.
So you think that there Did you get to see the entire base, or was there maybe an area that you didn't get to see that might have been what these other people are describing, or did you really get a good look at all of it?
I got a look at the various offices, business offices, and some of the meeting areas in the gardens. I didn't get to see all of the 10 levels of it because it is classified. There's restrictions where you can go and where you can't. So new recruits, new assets can't go beyond level 5.
Okay.
But what there also is underground facilities. There's the surface base with the 10 levels, and there's also like 40 other levels underground, built out underground, where the experimental labs are and the true military type stuff.
I would bet that's kind of convenient if you build your lab in an old lunar lava tube. If the experiment goes wrong, you can just collapse the lava tube and be done with your problem.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do that because there's a lot of various caverns on the moon as well. The moon itself is an artificial type, hollowed out, like a planetoid, and it has world engines actually. So it's not just a moon; it's an artificially created environment itself, the moon.
Now, did you get to see any of that stuff? Because I'm assuming that whatever race built that probably isn't around anymore. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, did you get to see any of that old stuff underground, like the inside of the moon?
Yeah, I remember seeing the world engines, but what happened is they were damaged when the moon was placed around Earth's orbit, like locked in. So it never changes the orbit. It's always in the same place. The engines stopped working. So I did see the engines, but they're damaged. So the moon can't travel anymore out in space because their engines are damaged.
Do you know how those engines work?
There's crystalline technology there, also plasma warp drives. So that's how those engines used to work.
I gotta imagine they were probably pretty big if they're moving the moon around.
Oh yeah.
About how big would you estimate them to be?
Huge, half the size of a planet.
Wow.
I would say. Yeah, and they're inside the core of the moon, so you can't see them. They're not visible. They're inside the core of the moon itself. They're like rings. There's 3 rings.
So I reckon you'd have to access it through the tunnels from the surface.
Yeah, there's like a core. There's a main core, and there's 3 rings around the core, the engine spinning.
So which faction controls that?
No faction controls it now because the engines don't work.
So they just don't care about it then? Nobody's
Not really.
holding the territory?
No, the engines don't work. They were damaged. There were wars, many wars, galactic wars, and when the moon was put around Earth about 500,000 years ago, those engines were damaged at that time, so they don't work. They're world engines, so before the moon could move around in the galaxy, now it can't. So it's just stationary.
Just kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you were brought to lunar command, what was the the receiving process? I mean, did you go through any tests? Did you have to, how did they figure out? Did they already know what they wanted you to do?
Well, they have records of what I did in Monarch Solutions, and they had records of the reptilian abductions. So what they did is psychic testing to test my abilities to see what I'm good at. And that's remote viewing, that's communications, various languages. I have aptitude for learning languages quickly and understanding what I'm learning. I also have a photographic memory and an eidetic memory. So everything I've ever experienced, I remember. So that was one of the things that they liked a lot. So they're like, we'll put her in communications and encoding and decrypting information.
Now, during this period, did you suffer anything that could be considered like trauma-based mind control or anything to that nature?
I didn't suffer anything like that. What I did suffer through was the Neuralink implants. They implanted those. They had put in ocular implants, which actually record video and audio in my eyes. They put Neuralink implants also in my head to track telemetry where I would teleport on various missions. So they had these implants were Neuralink, so it's technology, and also it's implants that are etheric, partially etheric, so a combination of both. And those were implanted by the an ICC faction and also 3 types of different ET groups because they're complicated implants.
Okay, so they had to have assistance from
Yes.
ET groups.
Yes.
Now, do you remember, like, maybe what, for lack of better words, what your first gig was as the interpreter? Like
My first gig, yeah, that gig was on Mars. What they did, they put me, they had me liaising with the 2 various Mars colonies that still live on Mars, the original Martians. They're kind of humanoid. Some of them are ant-like. There's reptilians. So what they had me do was infiltrate the various Mars factions of those colonists and liaise with them. It's like, hey, cultural exchange. You get to meet them. They get to meet you. You know, you're gonna help them out. Make sure they're living okay on the planet. Nothing bad happening to them. I was learning their languages and unknowingly passing back intel information about these colonists.
Right. So, what was their culture like there? The colonists. You said the original. Now, am I to guess that this is an original, like that evolved on this planet, or was it just the first colonists of Mars?
Some of them were original colonists that evolved there, and some of them were off-world colonists that came later.
So what was the culture like of the original Martians?
It was very advanced. They had portal systems as well. They had trading cities, so they could get off-world and travel. And they had a lot of different trading cities on the planet, so they would trade with other species.
What kind of stuff were they trading?
Ships, technology, medicine. Advanced technology, mostly, mainly.
So what did these colonists do for food? Did they have, hydroponic labs or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, they had
agrodomes.
So
yeah.
no
Yeah.
food replicator technology or anything like that.
They had that too, but they were mainly the hydroponic and the agrodomes. They did have replicators as well. But they like to grow the food themselves, and they also had a very spiritual type of civilization. So they had pyramids, like healing centers that were pyramid shaped.
So they just did hydroponics. Can you grow something in the soil of Mars, or is it just dead?
Right now it's dead because it was damaged by radiation. They had a lot of nuclear blasts going on Mars, so it's scarred.
Mm-hmm.
But before, the soil was very rich, very healthy. It was plantable before on the surface.
So now, are you talking nuclear blasts in the distant past, or is this something more recent?
Distant past, about 500,000 years ago during the Galactic Wars.
Okay. So did you have any run-ins with the Mars Defense Force while you were stationed there? Or was it just these colonists?
It was the colonists and the ICC group that I worked for.
They never had you do anything with MDF?
No.
Okay, so you had mentioned, I think I'd read it in some of your papers about doing translations for different federations and confederations of ET species. Can you just tell us a little bit about those and what they are, what they do?
Sure. So I was mainly stationed on 11 ICC Mars bases that they own. Part of the work was there, and I would be loaned out to other ships, other ET ships. And what I needed to do was take notes, what these species were talking about, what were the meetings, and my implants would record all of that. But I also would take notes of the language, like specific letter for one word, how you make the words together, all that stuff. And that would need to be input into the ICC databases. interpreted so we would understand their languages of what these ETs speak. Because there's a lot of them coming in.
Right.
It's not one species. There's a lot of them. The ICC trades with many different species, humanoid ones and species that aren't so humanoid. So we wanted all of their languages into our database so we could understand them, what they're actually saying without having a translator implant in the brain. They actually wanted to know their languages and have it all in a database and have it understood. So they had me participating in the meetings. I couldn't say anything. It was not in a political role. It was just in an observer witness role, just sitting there and writing everything down, their language, their culture, what the structure is, where they come from, and putting that all into the ICC database through my implants.
So what kind of stuff were they talking about?
Trading, what their cultures are, what they wanted from us, because they like the Earth humans. Our culture is rich. We have broad sense of emotions, which some of them don't understand, and it's interesting to them. So they wanted to learn about our culture as well, and the representatives that were there, the human representatives from the ICC and the SSP, they wanted stuff from the ETs as well, like trading stuff. So it was like an exchange. You give us this, we'll give you that.
I would imagine the reptilians are just angry a lot.
I guess it depends on which ones.
I wouldn't say they're angry. They're manipulative and calculative. So they're always thinking 5 steps ahead in what they can get and what they want and how to get it. So it's really hard. Like yeah, it's really hard to outsmart them because they have an agenda on top of an agenda going at all times. So you can't really mess with the reptilians.
Well, yeah, and not too long ago, we had a gentleman who came on our show, and he claimed to be a reptilian, have the soul of a reptilian.
Yeah, he said he was
incarnated in a human body.
He was a draconian walk-in.
And he basically made the case, hey, not all of us are so bad. So I believe that.
They're not all bad.
No, I gotta imagine it would. I mean, I don't have any first-hand experience, but I gotta imagine these different ET races would just be like humans. I mean, you've got your whole spectrum of how they are. I mean, I guess it's possible that maybe one whole alien race could be a certain way. I just doesn't seem like it's very likely.
They're not all the same way. They're very different. And one of the memories that I have that's very the memory leak that comes through, it's very vivid, is they had me, some of the ET species, they don't like humans coming into their meetings. They want whoever the human coming in, they want you to look like them, the humanoid type ETs. So what the ICC did to me, they temporarily changed my genetics to make me look like those ETs.
Oh, wow.
I had blue skin, white hair, like up to here, and black stripes here on my face.
Wow.
So
which species is that, out of curiosity?
I'd have to say, I can't remember which species it is, but they were blue.
Okay. Right on.
Well, I've heard about several different blue ETs, so I guess it could be any number of them.
Yeah, they were humanoid, and they were tall, 10 feet tall.
Well, speaking of that, about how many, what type of ETs would you expect to see at one of these Confederation or Federation meetings?
The blue aliens, are they really a thing?
I think that's a cyclop.
We'll get to that a little later.
Yeah.
So, anything in particular stick out? Like, I mean, I've heard Tony had mentioned something about a fish-like looking person and like a little rat type. Like, anything like that? Like, what? Or is it all just human-esque looking?
The ones that I met were human-esque looking. I did have an encounter with the Aruna, hammerhead shark species. Very intimidating.
Yeah, so, it sounds like it would be.
Imagine a hammerhead shark. The eyes are going like this.
Wow.
And they're tall. They're like very muscular, 20 feet tall, and you're like...
Now, do they
That's
have
not
to have
humanoid.
like a reverse diving suit, like like
No,
a fish? So
no.
they're just walking around breathing air.
Yeah, they have gills,
Uh
which
huh.
can breathe air. They do need to be in the water, but they could temporarily breathe air for about an hour.
Interesting.
And they like cavern systems, cave systems where they could just slink back into the water, where
Mhm.
there's water in the caverns. So they like to enter underground.
So I assume they're spacefaring,
They
unless.
are spacefaring, yeah.
So are their ships like full of water, or how does that work?
Um, they do have water tanks. They have certain areas walled off where it's water tanks where they sleep at night.
Yeah, I would imagine
But
the crew quarters is just a big pool.
well, they sleep in the water tanks.
Okay.
But they do have special breathing gills, which can adjust their air intake. It's just natural gills. It's part
Mhm.
of their natural physiology, so they don't always need to be in the water.
Right. So they adapted to be able to come out of the
Yeah,
water. Like I
yeah,
guess that would make them an amphibian.
Yeah, or I guess. Well, I mean, there are fish that can breathe air. Like,
yeah.
not too long ago, I saw a video actually of an octopus hunting on land. So,
Oh yeah, I've seen something like that before. Yeah.
And there's walking fish that could walk on land for like an hour or two and then jump back into the water.
hmm
So these were hammerhead. They look like hammerhead sharks, and they were blue skin, and eyes here on extended on antennae kind of eyes. So, and they were called the Aruna. The species called the Aruna.
Hmm.
And they were kind of intimidating. They were guttural, like they're demanding. So that's one of the species that really stood out for me because these guys weren't very calm, weren't very centered. They were actually angry that they had to hide themselves in cavern systems and they couldn't show themselves on the surface of the earth. One of those meetings was like that. They were angry that they couldn't walk on the surface of the planet. They're like, why do we have to skulk around? Like, why can't we just walk openly on the surface of your planet?
hmm
And the SSP personnel had to explain to them, well, because, disclosure hasn't happened for humans yet. So if humans saw you, they would freak out.
Yeah, I think I'd be.
violates the
I
prime
think I would
directive
be-
just a little bit.
I think I'd be a little bit freaked out. I see the big old hammerhead shark walking down the street.
Yeah. So what they were trying to do is negotiate for rights to walk on the surface of the planet and not be harassed.
Huh.
And the
Yeah.
SSP like, no, that's not going to happen
Yeah,
right
no.
now.
So, before we move on, you said that the ICC was trading. What was their major export? What is the ICC's major?
Humans.
See, now that's the rumors I've been hearing, and I just wanted to see what you had to say about it. Now, are these like what you would say, what you could call, I guess, farm-raised humans, like clones, or are these humans abducted from Earth?
What they do is they abduct humans from Earth and then they turn them into cyborgs. So basically, what happens is the ICC has a lot of various cybernetic labs attached to their bases on Mars. So they take the human and they merge the AI tech, cybernetic tech, with the human, and then you have yourself scouts and ready-made soldiers, which you could put into stasis sleep in a pod, in a medical pod, and trade it out to the ET.
So at this point, does the human have any remaining self-identity, or is it just essentially a unthinking machine at that point?
Well, it depends. If they want them to have a self-thinking identity, they'll leave the soul alone. If they don't want the self-thinking thing, they could erase part of the human memories and implant something else. Or they can even do a soul swap, take the soul of somebody else and put it into the soul of that abducted human and kill off their original soul and do whatever they want with the soul.
So when they do that, now the human soul that they remove, is that lost? Does it reincarnate? How does that work?
Oh no. What they can do is take the soul from the human body and put it in an electrical field stasis and keep it there for however long they want, and they could put it into another body.
Well, isn't that quaint?
Yes, the Fourth Reich was actually working on that original technology, and they made it great, and they gave it to the ICC because they perfected the technology, and the ICC even did better with that and put the souls into other beings.
It's incredible. So is that how the Monarch Super Soldier program works?
No, that's a little different. They are cybernetically augmented, but I think their souls stay intact. They don't do soul swaps, and sometimes they do clones.
So when say no, I can't remember. Did you say that you were still currently doing ops?
I am not right now. My official release from the ICC was in 2014, March 12th. Now the 60 and back, it's quantum leap time travel. So the way it works is it seems like I say 60 years, and it was 60 years on Mars and the moon and all of it combined together.
Mm-hmm.
But in Earth years, it could be like 11 years. And in their time travel program, it's 60.
Okay.
So I just wanted to explain how that works. I was officially released in 2014, and they abducted me after that a few times for whatever they needed to put me in missions. Currently, I've told them, I don't give you my permission to do anything with me, so don't come knocking on my door ever.
So
no
now,
thanks.
Was this they abduct you physically, or was it like a consciousness thing?
It could be either or. Sometimes they consciously take my soul out of my body and put me in another body, and sometimes it was physical abduction, straight on.
Okay.
Depends on what they wanted to do with me.
All right. So after the translation, the stint, I guess you did 14 or 15 years of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you started getting into what?
They put me in different labs where they were building ships on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
They had me testing the Neuralink technology, my Neuralink implants, with the ship technology that they were building to make sure it worked correctly. So I remember that. And then they stuck me in the cybernetic labs where I would do quality control and check the bones, body parts, tissue, before the cybernetic augmentation and sync would happen with the human body. That was gross. But they had me do quite a lot of different things. And they also trained me as an assassin to kill people.
So how did that work? I've heard some stories about, being like an astral assassin with your remote viewing capabilities. Was that something you were doing, or was it just physical?
It was physical and the astral stuff. I was very stubborn. I didn't like the training. So what they did is they gave me a lot of combat training, ready combat training. I didn't want to be an assassin, so I was resisting that.
Mm-hmm.
I was not a good asset in that area of the program. I was very stubborn. So they did train me, and I was trained. I don't remember killing anybody, but the training was brutal, and they also trained me to manipulate others and to be a good liar, to infiltrate various human groups and the Mars colonists, and to just get them to do stuff.
So, where were you trained at? Did they train you on? They trained you on Mars.
Mars, yeah, in the ICC bases.
Did you ever get to travel anywhere else in the solar system or outside of the solar system during any of these missions?
They took me on Pluto. They took me outside of the solar system. I actually saw some Dark Fleet cities. I don't remember which planet that is on. I know it's outside of the solar system.
Okay, so, all right, we got... Now, you were building... ICC was building ships for Solar Warden and Dark Fleet, and also other ET races for trade?
Yes, yeah. I remember in 2000 until 2011, ICC was re-outfitting the Solar Warden ships with new hyperdrive engines that had crystalline technology. Because the Solar Warden ships were old, they couldn't go beyond the speed of light. So the ICC were retrofitting those ships so they could go beyond the speed of light.
What did those Solar Warden ships look like? The older models that were getting retrofitted.
Some of the ships looked like fighter jet planes with anti-grav tech attached to them.
And they were space worthy.
Yeah, they were space worthy. Just imagine if, it's a jet, but it has anti-gravity engines and the plating on the hull of the jet is almost impenetrable.
Well, what type of weaponry did they carry? Was it plasma weapons or was it bullets?
Plasma.
Plasma. So Solar Warden was definitely using plasma weapons.
They
At
had
least in
they
the
had
ships you saw.
yeah, they had nukes as well.
Oh, lovely.
They had nukes and the plasma weapons.
So were those like low yield nukes or were they, you know?
Like City Busters.
It depends. If it's a jet, then it's a low yield nuke. If it's a scouting ship with 20 or 40 crew, high yield nukes.
Wow.
You said they were refitting the drives on these things. Do they have point-to-point travel technology yet?
Explain point to point.
Like you disappear from one place and instantaneously reappear somewhere else.
No, they didn't have that. That's why the drives were updated so they could do that.
Now, did the ICC have anything like that?
Yeah, the ICC has had it for almost 60 years now. They've had that tech.
So now you said they also were building Dark Fleet vessels. Was that something they incorporated into those ships?
Dark Fleet ships, yeah. They're huge. They're almost like Armada ships. Long ships. Have you ever watched Killjoys? That show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched some of it.
Well, that program with the green goo, those agents, those huge ships
Okay,
in
yeah.
Killjoys?
I know what you're talking about.
Like that, Dark Fleet. That's kind of disclosing Dark Fleet.
Right.
Yeah, and well,
With that-
yeah, there's so much stuff that I see in sci-fi that I think is soft disclosure that comes out in drips and drabs. A little bit here, a little bit there.
Well, what the Dark Fleet has, they have long circular cigar ships.
Mm-hmm.
They have those as well, and they have like what looks like pumpkin-ish Star Wars, those types of ships. The Death Stars, like that.
Spherical bodies.
Yeah, and triangular, like long triangular.
I've seen
type.
a TR-3B over Newport News a couple times, and there have been lots of reports of them around here. I mean, Newport News Shipbuilding is, for the most part, Northrop Grumman and General Dynamics and BAE Systems. So, I mean, those are, all known companies that have contributed to Darkfleet.
Yeah, Lockheed Martin, Douglas, you name it, they've done it. I've seen the TR-3Bs hovering above my house consecutively since November of 2016. And I have a lot of pictures of it because what they do is they monitor the assets that they had. They like to monitor them and let them know, hey, we're still watching you. We're above your house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I saw mine over 64, near 64 and J. Clyde in
It's
Newport
the
News.
interstate over here, the interstate highway. Okay, so we are coming up on the break, though. So when we get back, I'd like to get a little bit into. I know we didn't really get to cover much of your story, which I'm sure could probably take hours and hours. But when we get back, I'd like to talk a little bit about when you first came out and the stuff that happened between you and Corey and your experience with the Blue Avians, and
Oh, yeah.
all that stuff.
That was interesting, Psychops.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and hit the break, and we'll see you in about 8 or 9 minutes.
Alrighty.
You can just stay on there, and we'll take care of the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Where'd it go?
of Saturn, virgin mother of virtue. Villainous animals will seek out and hurt you, distort you and twist you and misrepresent you. Your elegant innocence has transformed you into a definite target of manipulations and greedy ravagings that blunder your purity, spoil your seed, shadow you under scrutiny, or hide you entirely from consensus reality. Veritas, one and only. Veritas, our own. Veritas. Seeking her endlessly, she's ever elusive. Further and further now, your source gets diluted, and the well is always deeper. How deep can you dive? How deep is your need to stare the truth in the eye? The truth is that you hide from her. You are vulnerable. As you lied to yourself.
Hey guys, we're back. You know, if you like what you hear here and you want to support us, help us continue bringing you better and better quality shows, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/realitybrief. Radio Free Radio's also got one if you feel like contributing to the station. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. Also, we got our own YouTube channel. Search for Reality Brief. We also got a group on Facebook. It's facebook.com/realitybriefnews. You should check it out. It's pretty great. Post a lot of stuff in there. A lot of interesting things. So, let me get this back up here. Now, we were talking with Ileana, and she's got a pretty interesting story about when she first came out, you know, with her secret space program story. Whoa, that's not good. And towards the end of the show, we will go ahead and open up the phone lines in case you guys got some questions you'd like to ask her or talk about certain points. So, Ileana, thanks for coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me about what happened when you first started going public with your story.
Well, I came out in January 2015. I had my website Messages from a Star Traveler. Then I did my YouTube channel, Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, where I myself do some interviews with people, just do podcasts, tell my story. I archive everything that ever happened to me with the ET abductions, the ET contacts, the ICC SSP stuff, the 60 and back. So I was doing that great starting January 2015, no problems. And then I did watch some Cosmic Disclosure with Corey Goode and David Wilcock. And, you know, I found it interesting, and some of the points did correlate what Corey talked about, the Mars bases, the ICC having bases on Mars, And I had actually done, I went to Google Mars using Google Earth, and I actually mapped out 11 different ICC Mars space coordinates that I remember where I was stationed on Mars, as well as 2 weapons facilities and 2 Mars colonies. I also mapped out locations on the moon, like Lunar Operations Command, Dark Fleet base there, ICC base on the moon, some labs, and some landing ports where they land and stuff and do mining as well. So those ports are there as well on the moon. And I decided to email Corey Goode with that information, with all of those mapped coordinates on Google Mars locations. I actually saved everything that I mapped from Google Earth, and I sent it to him, and I said, "Hi, Corey, could you, do you remember any of these bases? Can you corroborate any of these locations that I'm sending to you from Google Earth mapping?" And he responded back to me saying, "Hi, do I know you? I don't recall ever talking to you before." And he's like, "Who are you?" So I answered him, "My name is Ileana, blah, blah, blah." Gave him my personal information because he asked for it. The next thing I know, he's trying to vet me. He's replying to me saying that I was never in the secret space program. I was not in any of the ICC bases. That he checked with his top SSP brass, and they said they don't know anything about me. That I was basically not in the SSP. I also claimed that I had an encounter with the Blue Avians. This happened in September. Basically what ended up happening is I was very distraught that day. My own website had been taken down. A woman claimed that I had copied her manuscript by the name of Ileana, her book, that I took her book manuscript and put it on my website, which I never did. So I countered the copyright complaint with my website, ISB publisher. And I had the copyright ban lifted and got my website back. But during that time where I was distraught, that's when the Blue Avian encounter happened. I was basically beamed up on a sphere, on a huge sphere, orbiting the Earth. It was a green beam. And I see this blue energy, shimmering energy. And I hear in my head psychically, "You need to steady your Rainbow Bridge body. You need to ground yourself and steady it, so the contact with the Blue Avian can happen. Otherwise, we can't make contact with you. We can't talk to you telepathically until you're grounded." So I grounded myself and, got in the energetic groove of being on the sphere. And this blue shimmering energy suddenly morphed into the Blue Avian. And he's telling me, our history is very complex. You should read Voyagers 1 and 2 by Ileana Dean, specifically page 264. Our race was genetically engineered 2.6 billion years ago. We have 48 stranded DNA. We're here to help humanity to ascend. So that's the short history. He said you could read all the rest on page 264 in Voyagers 1 and 2. And I'm like, what? Usually ETs don't tell humans to go read a book about their history.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and the second encounter I had was with the Golden Radiance, aka triangle-headed beings, the yellow beings that are 11 feet tall. He told me that they have the ability to time travel, to open up Stargateway portals, that they use green energy to do that. They can create mirrors in space and time and change time. So that was what he told me. And that, again, I needed to center myself because I was phasing out from the sphere. I couldn't hold my physical presence on the sphere because I was traumatized and upset. So he taught me how to hold that Rainbow Bridge body so I could physically stay on the sphere and interact with them. And he told me that he comes from a green galaxy far, far away. It was basically
A green one.
a green one,
Not
yeah.
to be confused with the purple galaxy.
No, no. So that was interesting. And the Blue Avians have their whole protocol with the finger movements and symbols, gestures. I went through all that jazz with them. 6-step protocol. And I described that to Corey Goode. He's like, nope, that's not how they greet. That's not their standard greeting. That's all wrong. He never replied back to my original question of about the Mars basis, ICC basis, and what's on the moon. Instead, he kept on questioning me about my ET experiences and encounters with the Blue Avians, the descendants of the L race, of the ancient builder race, because I had other ET encounters with ETs, humanoid-looking ETs that claimed to be the descendants of the ancient builder race. They called themselves the L. And they have a world ship called the Abduction, and they've traveled 13,000 years from the future back here to help us with the ascension process. And I described all of that to Corey. And I kept on asking him for my SSP ICC records because I didn't believe him that he was telling me that I was never in the SSP ICC. I said, like, can you check the ICC databases, not just the SSP? Are you sure your people have it right? And if I was never in the SSP, can you give me official records of that, documents of never being in the SSP, which he couldn't do. So I wasn't believing anything that he was emailing back to me. And this started from September 3rd, 2016, when I first emailed it to him. And it ended on September 7th, where he's like, no, what you're experiencing, that's not correct. You were never in the SSP. And the next thing I know, he outs me as a fake whistleblower and a fake SSP insider on September 14th, and warns people that I'm a fake liar and a danger to children. And he uses my Blue Avian video, my encounter, as an example of a fake type of video about fake ET encounters with Blue Avians, that I'm lying, basically.
Yeah, I remember reading that when it came out.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh. He said, a woman living in the Ukraine has made such claims. First of all, I was born in the Ukraine. I don't currently live in the Ukraine. I live in Canada now. I've lived here for 23 years. So he didn't really, he didn't do his research on me, didn't know much about me.
No, and you would think if he's got access to these mega databases with all this information, he would know you're not living in the Ukraine at this point. But the interesting thing is, now guys, I did read those emails, so I kind of got an idea of what's going on in there. And he did say that you were abducted as a child, and he tried to downplay to where no, it's just that. And then they came as a follow-up. The SSP came as a follow-up, as they typically do with my labs. I mean, to me, it's, I hate to say it like this, but who died and made him king? You know what I mean? Like, what gives him the right to there's no proof of any of this, right? What makes his story any more accurate than yours, and what gives him the ability to say whether or not someone else's story is credible? Now, on the Blue Avian point, you had mentioned earlier that you had thought it was a psyop. What made you come to this belief?
Well, I know that various programs, the ICC, the Dark Fleet, they have the technology to make you think that you're experiencing anything, basically. They have the ability to put holographic inserts into your mind so that you feel like you're having a physical, real experience, having ET contact experiences, where you actually meet ETs or you meet somebody from the programs. They have the ability to holographically, through holographic technology, make you think and believe anything is possible.
Right.
That you're having an encounter with someone or something. And again, like I said, before, what was kind of like a trigger for me, red bells started going off when the Blue Avian told me to go read page 264 of Voyagers 1 and 2 from Ashiana Dean's material. Now, I've had the books in PDF, but I never read them before, so I didn't know what was in the books. When I did go to read page 264, that's where all that history about the Blue Avians were. That's where it was, bam, on that exact page. I'd never read that before, so I'm like, wait a minute, something weird is going on here.
Now, Ashiana Dean,
How do I spell that?
it's definitely familiar. I just can't place it. No, what organization was she from?
She has basically her own stuff. She does teaching about different galactic races, the Guardians, Earth history, going way back. So I can't even spell her name. It's too complicated. But I can send you the books later on.
Right.
Okay.
I've definitely heard about it. I was just wondering if, what was it, the Galactic Federation of Light, if she was involved in any of that.
I don't believe so, no. It's different.
That name has definitely come up in my research. I just can't place it right now.
Here, I think I found them.
She was popular in the 1990s until 2000s. And she actually, in that Voyagers 1 book, she talks about beings having blue skin and type of feathers. She talks about the avians. She says beings with blue skin and feather-like that are avians. So that's in her book.
So is she channeling? Is she saying she's channeling this?
She's saying that she actually physically met the Guardians.
Okay.
And various different ET species, and she put all of that information in the books, in those 2 books, Voyagers 1 and 2, that the Guardians imparted to her.
So I'm just wondering if, this whatever group is behind this op, this Blue Avian op, at least in your case, pointing you to her book, does that mean that they're doing the same thing to her and that's where she's getting all this information from?
I can't speculate. I don't know. I've never met Ashiana Dean.
I don't know either. And I'm not even familiar with her body of work right now, so I couldn't...
Well, after that experience with the Blue Avians, which I still think to this day is a psychop, I actually started reading the books, and they're complicated. It's a lot of history, going back to the wars, going back to all those different species and stuff. It actually really talks about all of that in detail and provides some interesting information. And she talks about the holographic inserts in the book that they can make you think anything is possible. So I'm like, I think these, either the ET groups, possibly the reptilians, because they've been involved in my life since I was 2, and also in the programs, the humanoid reptilian hybrids, they were in the programs too. I think they could be either responsible for it, or one of the SSP groups could be responsible for the psychop.
Now, do you think that the Blue Avians in general are a real thing, or you think it's just all, make-believe for the psyop?
There could be a race of blue beings that might be avian, but what interest would they have in giving a message to humanity through a human representative? I don't think that's true.
So... without making any accusations here, do you think that Corey Goode is aware that this is going on, or is it you think that he thinks he's actually in contact with Blue Avians, or?
I think he's aware about the SSP stuff, that he was in the program, that he experienced what he experienced with the SSP. I think the Blue Avian stuff and the Inner Earth groups with the Anshar, that could be holographic manipulation, psychop. Because from my own ET experiences and contacts, you don't constantly have contact with the same group for years and years and years. You have different ETs that can come in and have contact with you. It's not a constant stream of the same ET group. I think he is partially being manipulated.
You think this has to do with the slow roll disclosure that he's always talking about?
Yeah, I think it does, because whistleblowers have been known to be murdered, have been known to have accidents when they disclose something that's, very important. He's alive and kicking, so am I.
Yeah.
And other people who have come forward. So something is really up around here. I think he has handlers that work with him to provide a clear-cut narrative that's believable. It sounds sci-fi and it changes constantly. It's not the same anymore. It's not the same story that he's putting out. First it was the SSP, then it was the Blue Avians, then it was the Inner Earth, then it was Antarctica. Now it's the Nordics and the Vatican. He's talking about that.
And then let's not forget the Air Force guys that came and picked him up.
Yeah, the lower MIC groups.
And with the recent announcements of they're putting into the latest national defense authorization in America to create a Space Corps that's similar to the Marines but in the Air Force. So I'm wondering how much of that has to do with that.
Yep, Space Marines are a thing now.
Space Marines already exist on Mars and the Moon. That's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they're looking for public funding for it now to actually create an on-the-books Space Corps, which is essentially, it would be like the Marines are to the Navy. The Space Corps is to the Air Force.
Well, I think they do need to do that, because if the lower MIC is disclosed at some point, it must look legit. That's why they're doing the Marine Corps.
Yeah, and it seems like, maybe they'll just toss it out now, and then like 2 years from now, they'll be flying around look what we just came up with. You know how they do.
Yeah, I think Goode has had contacts with the lower MIC, and I do believe he has handlers who help him to put out a good script that works.
I just have a hard time with the amount of times that he's said that his memory has been altered or, erased or implanted memories, whatever. I just have a hard time with how he could be so clear about everything, and steadfast in the opinion that this is reality and not like with any of you guys. To me, as an outsider, it seems like any one of your memories could be programmed.
Oh, it can. I sit for hours and hours sifting through all my memory leaks and bleed-throughs to figure out if it's true or not, or if it's implanted. I work at it. I literally sit there examining my own memory, recall of events, and I put question mark about certain memories, and I examine it all in my head, and I write it all out, and I do video vlogs. I archive all of it. I archive it, and it goes public. People can see what I do. Like, I have no secrets. I'm sure Corey Goode is trying his best to the best of his knowledge and memory and whatnot. The thing is to put it all out, his story. The thing is, he claims that he's in contact still with the SSP and the ETs. And I'm sure he's had other email exchanges with other people and phone calls who have asked him, well, have I been in the SSP? Have I been in the ICC? And he's like, yes, no, yes, no.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to imagine that he probably does get contacted by quite a few people. And, out of all those people contacting him, at least if he is legit in what he's saying, at least some of them would be legit, but yet on the Cosmic Disclosure Show, you never see any other space program whistleblowers outside of, like, Tompkins. And with Tompkins, I almost feel something fishy there, too, because with his documents that he releases, it's just collections of research papers that were done previously. And, I would guess that the military-industrial complex, even on the surface, would be wanting to look at stuff like that. I mean, just to get ahead of the curve. So to me, it's not proof of a secret space program. It's proof that Douglas was looking at alternative propulsion methods. Yeah. And it seems like when I watch his interviews and different shows that he goes on, he kind of like just agrees with whatever the host is saying. You know what I mean? It's like he just like whatever the host is talking about and wants to talk about, he just is like, yep, that's it. Like when he was on Cosmic Disclosure, it was the 20 and back. But he had never talked about that before. But now all of a sudden he's talking about the 20 and back when he's on Cosmic Disclosure. It could be nothing. I just play devil's advocate a lot, I guess.
Well, after the email exchange with Corey and him outing me as a fake and a liar and a danger to children, I was having a hard time trusting him in the beginning. I was questioning things, and after that email exchange and what he did, I'm like, don't have much respect for this person. I hope he's okay, and whatever he's doing doesn't get him into any trouble.
Right.
This stuff is really walking on a tightrope, fine line. Because who knows if we're telling the truth or not? Like you said, it could all be manipulated fairly easily. I've done channelings, I've done hypnosis regression, I've done memory recall. Goodness gracious, what haven't I done to figure out all this stuff, my SSP stuff? And I've publicly chronicled it all. So it's out there. Anybody can see it. I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm just sharing bits and pieces of what happened to me, of my life archive.
Right.
That's all I'm doing.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't know. I feel like there's no reason for him to be going around saying stuff like that. I mean, he hasn't presented himself. He climbed up in the throne without actually having the papers behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like his word is bond. Whatever he says is what's legit. And I just have a real hard time with that.
Me too. It's a huge concern for me how he's interacting with people behind the scenes in those emails and phone calls. Goodness knows what he's telling people, and where does he have the authority to do that? Who has given him that authority to vet people? And he vetted me without my permission. I never asked him to vet me. I just emailed him about the basis. I never said, hey, Corey, can you prove or disprove that I was in the SPICC? I didn't ask him to do it.
Right.
Well,
He just did it on his own.
I would think that since he's become such a huge voice in the disclosure movement, that perhaps that could be steered from the shadows by one of these agencies like ICC or Kruger or whoever.
I wouldn't be surprised if the NSA and CIA and some other three-letter agency is steering this, and perhaps he's working for one of those agencies and has a handler from one of those agencies.
Knowingly
I get
or
a
not.
feeling he does. I have a feeling he does, just intuitively.
I mean, from what I understand, from what he says, he can't just contact these people. So how is he even doing this vetting? You know what I mean? The Sphere being alliance, the what did he call? I'm not even gonna go. The blue avians.
Yes.
They just show up and suck them in the ball and bring them up into space. And then the SSP contacts and the inner Earth stuff, that just happens too. I mean, he can't contact these people. They have to contact him. So how does he go about this vetting process anyway, is what I would like to know.
Usually how the contact happens with the SSP-ICC, dropship comes to your house, hovers over your house, beams you up, or tells you to go outside telepathically for them to pick you up on the airship. They actually physically land and pick you up in the backyard. For me, they actually just beam me up from my bedroom, so there's no physical signs on the ground of anything. They don't want it to be seen. They just beam me up.
Right.
I've seen the ships hovering over my house. I've taken photos, the triangular TR-3Ws and other more advanced craft. I've seen it over my house, floating above my house. It usually happens from 2 to 4 in the morning. They won't do it in plain old broad daylight. They like to do it at night.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they obviously don't want to be seen, otherwise they would.
No.
I saw when I saw the TR-3B that I saw, it was at night.
Yes, the criteria, it has to be dark. All the neighbors have to be in their beds sleeping at night. And if you're living with roommates, those roommates need to be sleeping as well. Those are their criteria for picking people up at night. So that's how they pick him up as well, in their scout ships, the drop ships.
Yeah, so it's not like you can just pick up your phone and call up your local ICC chapter and or Solar Warden or the Alliance or whatever. Be like, come scoop me up, dog. I'm in the backyard. It's not happening like that. I mean,
But if you guys are listening right now,
Well, and something else that Corey did say in his emails is that he had vetted 4 other people.
Mm-hmm.
That he was emailing one of the people to let them know that they were in the SSP. That's what he mentioned in the emails.
Yeah, he did say one of them was legit, but how come we haven't heard from this person?
well,
We haven't.
And, according to what he was saying on the show, and look, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to go on a Corey hating rampage. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this here. I mean, as far as I know, I have no involvement with any of this, and I just would like to try and figure out what the hell is going on here. I mean, because lately, it's just been off the charts with fighting. I mean, and suspiciousness. Like, acting so suspicious, like doing weird, strange things, and the whole the cult-like aspect of what's going on behind that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one interesting point is last week, because I actually saw the Dark Journalist 3-part stuff with Bill Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
And when Bill Ryan said that Corey Goode was not a legit IT guy, I had a hard time with that. I think Corey is a legit IT guy who used to work for many companies. So I actually went and looked at his LinkedIn resume. And this was interesting. It really surprised me. I saw that he worked for AmerisourceBergen, which is a pharmaceutical company, that he worked with them in the IT department, and that he had 2 different commendations from that company for his work ethic. I had sent Michael Sala about a month and a half ago. He asked me some questions about what I remembered about the German companies in the ICC.
Mm-hmm.
I had sent him a document with a list of ICC shareholder companies. And guess who's on that list? AmerisourceBergen.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note. I'm working on pulling it up here. There was an article posted on exopolitics.org, and I'm sure it was by Sala. Yeah, it was by Sala, and it's talking about this exact thing. And he pulls up as his proof that he's an IT, out of all the things that he could pick from his long resume, is this AmerisourceBergen Specialty Group recommendation letter with a handwritten note.
Yeah.
Just giving him a glowing review. And it's funny to me that out of all the things they could have picked, they picked that.
Well, and the fact is, I remember that list of the ICC shareholder companies from the ICC databases. I was working on inputting that list into the ICC databases on Mars, on their basis. That's how I remember that huge list that I sent Sala.
You say you sent that to him a month ago, and this article came out on June 11th. So unless he didn't read it, he already knew this information. So it leaves one to wonder if this is like a breadcrumb type thing here. Like,
I think
maybe
it is.
Sala is being threatened in all this somehow. And it's funny too. We were talking the other night about
Or maybe he's got an agenda of his own.
talking the other night about Gaia TV and how when I was watching it and I was watching these different shows, whenever the topic of the secret space program would come up, everybody would be like almost like scared to say anything because it might contradict Corey Goode or something like that, because he's on the same channel. So I'm wondering if there is something sinister behind this. Are these people like Micah Sala and the rest of them being coerced in some way? And
I don't think they're coerced. I think they've gone way too deep reporting on Corey. They can't go back on it anymore. They just can't go back because they're way in too deep with the Corey camp.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta imagine if Corey Goode got exposed to be a fraud or something like that, that it would probably wreck David Wilcock because he's put so much stock into him and his story.
Whistleblowers come and go. Representatives come and go every 10 years. It's somebody else that's new. That's what I've learned from this community. like what happened to Alex Collier. He was reporting on all this for 20 years and then he disappeared. So he was reporting on the Andromedans, on the Andromeda Council. Then he disappeared. Then somebody else came in and started talking about the Andromeda Council. Every 10 years, there's a new person on the scene who comes in and claims something new and sensational. The SSP stuff is not so new and it's not so sensational. As Michael Ralph talked about it, he claimed he was on Mars. Andrew Basiago, Randy Kramer, and a few others. So it's not a new concept. It's been around. The Blue Avians have been around. It's in Ashiana Dean's book. It's in another woman's book. It's been around since the 1990s. And when Corey Goode talks about Lunar Operations Command, that it being a swastika, an old German base that was first built out, and then the LOC built on more on that base, that actually comes from a movie called Iron Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were actually trying to get the director of that to come on the show. I don't think he wants to do that.
Well, actually, when I was looking for images of Lunar Operations Command about the circular building, I coincidence or not, I stumbled on Iron Sky, and I'm like, oh, that's a German swastika old base that Corey Goode claims is now the LOC. That's not how I remembered it.
Well, and the other thing about that is there was that building in California that was a swastika, and I think they've changed it now.
Yeah, it was an old Marine barrack.
Yeah, it was an old Marine barrack, and it looked like a swastika. I am going to open up the phone lines now. If anybody listening wants to call in with a question for Ileana or comments, that number is 757-525-3276. You can see it right up there on the screen. And give us a call. I will say one thing, try to keep it on topic, and please be nice. I will hang up on your ass. Okay, so where were we now? I just lost myself with all that. Oh, yeah, the swastika building. Yeah, he had said that, from what I remember from watching the Cosmic Disclosure show, I have watched all of those episodes. I've subjected myself. Well, I can't say that. I probably slept through about a quarter of it. But, yeah, he was saying that it was constantly being added onto, and it didn't no longer look like a swastika. And so in your description of the Lunar Command is those circular modules. And if I remember right, Tony, I don't think he got to see a good look of the outside of it.
No, he was mostly inside. I got to see pretty well inside of it, and, through those opaque windows, I got to see the outside on the moon. I got to see the moon. And I think they put me around town on the moon too, and a few of those other bases, because I've mapped out certain locations on the moon and on Mars. And the funny thing is, what recently came out from Google Mars was an April Fool's joke with them having a base near the Aeolus Mensa region. And that's where I actually mapped out the Mars ICC Base 5 near that area. So topographical location is the same, except, yeah.
Go ahead. No.
Oh, I'm just that's amusing that they would do that, and I wonder if it's by design or not.
Well,
I think it's design.
Yeah,
disclosure.
If I've learned anything about the way that these people running the world operate, is that they love dangling it in your face. They really do. So It wouldn't surprise me at all, not one bit. That number again, one more time, is 757-525-3276 if you're listening on the radio stream. And
one question I've had for a long time is, let's say that, we always see all these movies about people, accidentally screwing around building a radio in the garage, and they end up accidentally contacting aliens with, an old radio hooked up to a speak and spell. But realistically, like, if a layperson, a common person like me, wanted to, build some sort of homemade tech that could pick up signals from SSP ships, or otherwise, hack into the SSP, send out a signal that they would pick up, how would one go about it? What sort of tech do they use? Like, how could a normal person get noticed?
Well, you have to know your computers pretty well, because they're pretty, their systems are advanced. So an old ham radio just won't do it these days.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
what I'm thinking.
Well, one thing about it, knowing everything that you know about these programs and the slavery and the trauma, why would you why would you want to, man? You that desperate to see space?
I mean, I kind of do want to see Mars.
Yeah,
Mars
it would be
is
nice.
cool. Mars is cool, and the tech they have. For me, one of the things that I liked was the tech. That's what did it for me. So that was one of the incentives that kept me going in those programs was the tech. Because it's that good. It's advanced, great tech.
Yeah, I mean the stories I've heard, it definitely is.
I'd love to see Ceres or Triton or any of these places, Titan, any of them.
How do they communicate? What type of technology they obviously, like you said, they're not using the old ham radio. Is it like a quantum thing? Is it just different waves that we're not aware of?
Well, most abducted ICC assets have Neuralink implants, and they talk to each other through the implants.
Well, I mean,
Telepathy is actually rampant in the assets.
Right.
They all had implants.
What I was referring to was actually like, say, they had an ICC asset in a ship in Solar System A, and they needed to contact Solar System C. They would still use telepathy over that type of distance?
Sometimes, yeah. And they used encrypted computers from the database.
But you don't know what kind of signal they use.
No.
They send.
Oh boy, if I remember that, I'd be in trouble.
I bet you would.
Well, we read an article, I think it was last week or the week before, talking about how scientists in China are now able to, they were able to quantum entangle particles that were on Earth and 300 miles up in space at the same time.
Yeah, no, it was 700 miles.
700 miles? Okay, even better. So, I mean, I know that they're just now starting to release that sort of tech out to the public.
Yeah. And the assets from the SSP ICC, they still have their implants working when they're returned. So they, through the implants, because it's video and audio, they can send you signals, they can send you messages, and they can talk to you through those implants, and they do.
Now, were your ocular and other implants removed before they brought you back?
Nope. I had them up until recently. They were causing, the implants were starting to degrade and were causing me problems, so I got them removed, thankfully, and I'm no longer receiving messages, signals, nothing. Before I was.
Right. Now, what was the removal process like?
I did it partially myself, and I worked with Christopher Jacobs. He's another SSP contactee, an experiencer. He's very psychic. I also work with Jim Charles. He does channeling. He helped remove some of it. So I did work with a few different people and myself.
So I assume you're talking that these were astral implant or ethereal implants, just not actual physical implants.
They were partially etheric and partially nanofiber gold technology that can't be detected in the brain. It's connected to the neural system in my brain, and I had to go and remove it.
So it's gold filaments.
Yes, yeah. It leaked gold in my head, and I actually have MRIs. I suddenly got a lesion in the white matter of my brain.
Ouch.
Never had a lesion before for the last 6 years, and suddenly I couldn't remember anything. I was having brain pressure. Like I felt like it was squeezing in on my brain. So I went and my neurologist didn't believe me. I paid a private MRI. I just paid for it, and I'm like, ugh. Yep, that's what I thought it was there. It's like scarring from these implants.
Now, don't take this the wrong way or anything. I'm just curious. Have you talked to a psychologist or, a shrink or whatever? I'd just be interested in what, because it seems like anybody talking about these kind of stories would automatically be labeled, insane.
A quack.
But yeah.
My advice is, do not go to a psychologist or a shrink with your story. Go to an alternative medicine counselor, practitioner, who actually is like Eve Lorgen and Augatellis. he went to her, and they did memory regression on him. Go to a specialist that actually specializes in abductions and things and will believe you. Because if you go to any old neurologist, psychologist, a shrink, they won't believe you.
Yeah, I'd imagine they'd try to put you on the whole cocktail of drugs
Well,
immediately.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
antidepressants.
thinking how everything runs from the shadows, it wouldn't surprise me if the system would just reabsorb you. They would refer you to some sort of community services bureau type thing, and then put you in some kind of facility where, you know, the doctors from whichever faction of whichever organizations that you've had contact with in the past are just going to come scoop you up and whisk you away off to wherever and continue doing whatever they were doing.
Or heavily just medicate you so you look like an idiot.
You got the Thorazine drool going on.
Either disable you, if not just, you know, remove you outright.
Yeah, I don't go to shrinks. I don't go to psychologists and mainstream medicine. Nope. I act like a normal, everyday, average Joe Blow.
Well, you are, from what I can tell. I mean, you just got some incredible stories. I mean,
oh yeah, I've got the ET abductions, the ET contact experiences, the SSP, the ICC. What was us smoking when I came to this planet and incarnated on Earth? What?
yeah.
Why did I want all of these experiences?
Yeah,
there
what did
must
you-
be a reason.
Is there anything else you can tell us about Monarch?
They like to have assets who have psychic abilities. Monarch Solutions. It's all they choose people who are psychically well developed in the beginning, who are just born with it. Everybody has psychic ability to a certain degree, but if yours is better than somebody else's, they'll happily nab you.
Sweet, they should come scoop me. There are times that I feel like I can't shut mine off.
So, no, I've heard rumors, and I call them rumors because, you know, so far it's all unsubstantiated, but is there a war between Monarch and Kruger going on?
I know nothing about Kruger, and I just know Monarch Solutions, they had a bunch of bases and they like to do experiments with certain type technology. That's what I experienced when I was in Monarch. Kruger, I know nothing about Kruger.
So
I've
you've
heard
never-
about it.
Not during the programs, you never heard anything about Kruger? Just
Nope,
after the fact?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't know anything about Kruger, so I can't really comment on that. And what I will comment on is I'm not out to get Corey Goode or anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
not
I
what I'm
mean,
doing.
It's like I said, me personally, I'm just trying to figure it out. I mean, it's something weird is going on. It's no doubt about that. What exactly it is, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever know, but
To me, it stands to reason that, you know, off-world politics are spilling into on-world politics.
Yeah, and I had a bump encounter with Corey Goode as part of being in the program soup.
You had a bump encounter with him?
Well, digital online email encounter
Right.
is just part of floating in the program soup. Eventually, you will have, you know, an encounter with one of their assets.
Well,
we haven't had one yet, but, you know, it'd be, I suppose it'll come.
We got about 3 minutes left before we have to jet. So is there any points that you'd like to get off your chest, so to speak, before we end the show that you haven't got to talk about yet?
Yeah, I'd say use discernment when you listen to something or hear something or talk to somebody. Be very careful with email exchanges and phone calls with people who say they're whistleblowers or some sort of representative or an insider. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Or if you feel that it's baloney, just pay close attention. Always save your emails and phone calls if you can. To have evidence, have a paper trail, because Bill Ryan was talking about evidence and some video that he had of Corey, blah, blah, blah. Well, where is it? Actually document stuff. So if you're accused of something, you can rebuttal it with physical hardcore evidence. The reason why we didn't put those emails up for everybody to see is because there are privacy laws and copyright laws concerning email exchanges and phone calls, so you can't really share that stuff publicly. But I do have it, and some people have seen it. Now, I don't want a lawsuit from Corey Goode. I just don't want that.
Yeah, nobody does. And
No.
with his rabid fan base, and I hate to call it that, but that's what it is. He will have a lawyer on you instantly. I mean, he's
It,
always getting money from people.
yeah, and the limit for sharing private stuff is 150,000 US and 250 CAD Canadian. So we can talk about it and paraphrase it, but we can't show you the proof. We have the proof, but we can't show you it.
And I can say, guys out there listening,
I
you
imagine
see me,
Knockwaffen has
you
money
see
for
me out
lawyers.
here. You see me in here every week. And, I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen the emails, and what she's saying is true according to the emails. So just so you know, she's not just coming on the show and just making something up. I've actually seen these emails.
Yep, and I have the original copies that I got off my Shaw email. About 20 different exchanges with Corey Goode. And then Roger Rams or Richards also emailed me on Facebook Messenger saying, don't go against Corey, don't cross Corey. I'm like, I don't agree completely with the information that Corey shared with me, so I'm just going to do my own thing and continue doing my work.
And, I would think even if he did have some sort of back channel where he could vet you, the way everything is so heavily compartmentalized, it would be very easy for him not to be able to have access for all of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But,
I don't take just somebody's word on it. I actually want to see physical documentation with stamps or even meet somebody from the SSP that'll tell me I was never in the SSP. So Corey Goode's word for it, I won't take it personally because it's not authenticated by anything. There's no authority to it, so I just can't take it. I won't, and I didn't.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
We don't believe in authority, period.
There's no authority but yourself here on Reality Brief. So, once again, I'd like to thank you for coming on. We do have to jet. The next show has to start getting ready to come on. So, but this is Ileana. Again, if you want to give out your webpage or YouTube for anybody watching that wants to follow up, you can feel free to go ahead and do that now.
So the webpage is Messages from a Star Traveler, and the YouTube channel is Awakening Cosmic Reality Show.
And we'll get that posted in our Facebook group for you guys. And thanks again, Ileana. I'm sorry. Thank you again for coming on the show, and we will see you guys next week on Reality Brief.
Thanks for listening.
Every time.